All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Going to be breaking down the two-game slate that we have on Monday. Let's go ahead and get into it. So yes, this is going to be a two-game slate. We had the first game, which is going to be the Bucs versus the Texans here. The Texans are going to be 2.5-point favorites, which I kind of made clear. I thought that was a strange line. That has actually come down a little bit from about 3.5 or so. Still, the Texans are favored to win, which I do find surprising there. I do think that the Bucs money line is kind of a bet that I like there, guys. So like low vig, if you guys played there, it's not a terrible bet. Bet online, AG, if you guys played there. I'm trying to find a more popular sports book. ESPN bet plus 125. Okay, I do like the Bucs to win that game. I was a little bit surprised by that. But overall, we look at like the game total, lower scoring game as well, which I was a little bit shocked by. And part of the reason as to why I'm shocked by that is because I think this is going to be a much better game for the Bucs in general. And CJ Stroud's going to have a really good game because I don't think Nick Chubb's going to be able to do much in this game against that Bucs defense. And so let's go ahead and start off with the Bucs here. Calling out the best prop bets for them. We are getting, I would say 3 that are decent. Bucky Irvin to not score a touchdown. Not really a bet that I want to go out of my way to target, but it is worth calling out. Yes, the game is a lower scoring game, projected to be a lower scoring game, so maybe that's a bet that you like personally. Cade Otton's a little bit interesting as well. He did end up playing a lot of snaps last week, but wasn't, productive really in that game. And then from there, we're starting to get a little bit too low in terms of like good bets, good EV bets or anything like that. And I do think it's worth calling out kind of the snap counts that they ended up getting in that game last week. And more specifically, I want to call it Sterling Shepard. So Sterling Shepard, we're going to see at 23 routes, so a 70% route share, which is pretty solid there. Ended up with 6 targets in that game, only 3 catches. Okay. Emeka Egbuka had 6 targets as well, only 4 catches. And then Mike Evans, 8 targets, only 5 catches. So Baker ended up having a good game overall, but also was a little bit spotty in that regard. So I was looking at that and trying to find a bet that I could like myself. And, we couldn't get into Sterling Shepard for over 21.5 for his receiving yards. I'm fine with that. I actually might just go with the Goblin of 1.5. So if you're someone that bets on another site, I think this could end up being a decent spot for him to, maybe just get to 2 receptions. And if it ends up being a push, kind of, it's not a bad spot for me. Again, just going to play a lot of snaps. Going to get a decent amount of targets as well while he's on the field. So overall, I don't mind that there for Sterling Shepard. And for what it's worth, if they are going to be maybe 2.5-point dogs, then maybe there's a few more pass plays that Shepard's going to be on the field for. They do run a lot of 11 personnel, even still this year as well, which not too much of a shock, but we were a little bit worried about that with a new offensive coordinator being in there. Now, I will say I was impressed with Emeka Egbuka, and I wish we could find some good bets for him. Like, I don't mind the reception one, 4.5. He did get the targets, as I had mentioned. I wouldn't hate the over receiving yards as well, but at the same time, I think his lines are correct. That's also going to be my feelings with Mike Evans as well. Like, I feel like his lines are correct. So to me, any bet that would be placing with those two would be forcing it. And so if you guys are someone that, like me, also plays like NFL DFS, I think that's the better route with those 2 players specifically. Whereas Shepard, I think there is a little bit of an edge there to still be betting on him. I do think we want to be betting on the Bucs passing game, and that's going to be my way of doing it. And then just for what it's worth with Bucky Irvin, I do expect him to bounce back. Do I necessarily want to bet on him to get over his rush yards? I mean, I think I'd be more inclined to do it this week. Maybe even his rush attempts, but like to me, the lines that we are getting with him are also seemingly correct as well. So we're going to and jump on into the Houston Texans. And so I do want to pull up the snap counts for the Texans here, guys. And one thing that, somewhat stood out to me was just how many freaking routes. And it wasn't a lot, but, Nick Chubb gained 27% of the routes. Was a little bit shocking to me. And he ended up gaining a target in that game as well. The typical third down running back is Dare Gumbawale, who ended up, getting 2 targets, 2 catches for 17 receiving yards. I wouldn't be surprised if that role is expanded, at least at the start of the season. I do expect as the season progresses that Woody Marks is going to start to get more work. What's interesting is that I believe it was the head coach that was referring to Joe Mixon's time on the Houston Texans, in past tense, like he was a good player for the Texans or something like that. So it does seem to be like these are going to be the players. Now, Nick Chubb ended up looking pretty good. I mentioned this And when we look at Nick Chubb, I do think the lines are correct, but he was impressive. Okay, he was. He made some defenders miss. I mentioned during the preseason that he had that burst back they really didn't have last year, and we ended up seeing that in week 1 as well. So that was encouraging. I don't think I want to be betting on him just because I do respect the Bucs rush defense, and so that line for him to get over 50 rushing yards is a little bit too low. His rush attempts line, if you do think that they are going to win, that's actually not a terrible way to go. Like even if he's only getting 2.5 yards per carry, they might still be okay with that there. But again, this is another spot where I think his lines are correct. Now, where I think we might be getting a slight edge, and it's not a bet that I necessarily love as well, would actually be Dare Ogunbowale to get over 6.5 receiving yards. He does seem to have a role, and he is a good pass catcher. He is a playmaker as well. I understand why they don't give him the ball in the rushing game, but if he is needed in the passing game, he can be good. And it is worth calling out, like they are still banged up. Christian Kirk is going to be out in this game. And to me, that's where you could see someone like Dare Ogunbowale just get a little bit of run. Okay, it's a 2-game slate. I don't necessarily love a lot of the bets. That was one that was like, all right, I can get on board with that, especially with me, where I think the Bucs are going to win this game, not the Texans. Now, another thing I want to call it as well is Xavier Hutchinson ended up playing 70% the passing down plays. So 21 routes ran for him. We like that. Ended up with 2 receptions. And then two targets as well for 30 yards. So I ended up having a decent game. But what we're concentrating on is going to be those the snaps in general, 68% of the snaps. Also was a little bit surprising. Saw Justin Watson actually look pretty good there for the Texans. We're not betting on him, just kind of noteworthy. And I will say his line here, really just for both of them, does seem to be too low. Even if he's not going to be playing an egregious amount of snaps, but still getting around, let's just say 55 to 75% of the snaps should still be enough. Getting 65 at least route share, we like that there as well. So I think him to get over 15.5 receiving yards, where that is where you are going to be attacking the Bucs. Okay, look at the Falcons. The Falcons were successful in the air in week 1. And we're not via the ground game. And that's part of the reason why I like Dare Ogunbowale as well. I do think that the Texans are going to watch the film and say, all right, Bijan Robinson was not able to do much on the ground, but he was able to be very effective in the receiving game. So I think that's going to be part of the film. And that's why I think someone like Dare Ogunbowale could get used a little bit more, but I also do like Xavier Hutchinson to also basically get 2 catches here. It is really what we're betting on here, but could easily get the over here on 1 catch there as well. So then we're going to go ahead now and get into the next game. We got the Chargers versus the Raiders, guys. Game total wise, 46.5 points. So decently high scoring game. Spread wise, 3.5 points in favor of the Chargers. I agree with the lines that we're getting here. Money line wise, nothing too crazy. If you think the Raiders could win, William Hill USA, you don't want to bet there. If you think the Chargers are going to win, money line, not terrible spots actually. Minus 190, not terrible. Just really most books. I actually wouldn't hate that. And let's just take a peek here at some of the Chargers prop bets that we were getting here as some of the top prop bets there. Pass completions for Justin Herbert, 22.5. And I will say that's one that does seem intriguing to me. Now, I actually kind of like the passing TDs, 1.5 passing touchdowns as well. I just think it's going to be more of a pass heavy script. I think Justin Herbert's going to continue to look good as well. So I kind of like that bet a little bit more. But the pass completions is basically the exact same thing. That does kind of correlate as well. And you add in Keenan Allen into that mix as well, who was targeted heavily, and Lad McConkey as well, who they're not necessarily downfield threats. I think that is a bet that I like. I like both of those bets a decent amount, actually. And the fact that it's supposed to be a decently high scoring game and a close game, I can get on board with really any of the bets for Justin Herbert, but those are the 2 I dialed in on: passing TDs and also his pass completions. I'm fine with both of those. And then from there, it is worth calling out, like Amarian Hampton to get over 14 rush attempts is interesting. I do expect Najee Harris to get a little bit more of a workload, though. As you guys know, he had that eye thing going on, was not necessarily expected to play all that much in week 1. I was a little bit surprised at the amount of snaps that I ended up playing, because Hampton ended up playing like 80% of the snaps. So a little bit shocking. I expect those numbers to somewhat even out a little bit more. And then from there, we just look at some of the other bets that we're getting here. I don't necessarily love them that much. We're not even getting like big prop line differences as well. So we'll go ahead and jump on into the Raiders. So we look at the board for the Raiders. We are going to see Geno Smith to not have 2 passing touchdowns is a 53% edge. So for this 2-game slate, that's a decent bet that you guys could get to if you want to. From there, Geno Smith fantasy score, slight prop line difference there, nothing too significant. And so what we're going to notice here is we're not really getting any big differences in terms of us gaining edge on betting on prize picks or underdogs. So more generally speaking, let's see some bets that I I can get behind. So the bet that I can get behind is Jacoby Myers over 5.5 receptions. He is a receptions guy. Then you tack on the fact that you have Brock Bowers, who's currently banged up. I do expect him to play, but that could just mean that Jacoby Myers gets even more targets. And I've mentioned this a bunch, guys. Since Jacoby Myers has taken over as the receiver number one, basically since Davante Adams has left, he has basically been Davante Adams, and no one seems to care. He was a player that I was decently hyped for because he got a pretty significant quarterback upgrade going to Geno Smith, which now sounds weird to say out of my mouth, but it's true. And so he is someone that I think just isn't going to be valued properly for quite some time. And so I'm fine getting him over 5.5 receptions, maybe even longest receiving yard. I am interested to see what his fantasy score line comes out to be. That could be a spot for us to get to there as well. Do you want to call it like Trey Tucker ended up playing a bunch of snaps, and his role has always been a little bit shocking to me. Like, played 90% snaps, ended up scoring a touchdown in that game, but just hasn't done much. Like, he should be someone that's consistently getting 3.5 receptions or more. He's someone that can get used with the end around as well. They like his speed, they like his athletic ability, but he was really the receiver number 2 last week, and that's something that I would expect to continue again, but there isn't too much, honestly, in this slate in general. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys the bet of the day, but as always, if you guys enjoy the coverage, make sure to give a like, subscribe to the channel as well. If you guys would like access to the 9-to-5 PrizePicks cheat sheet and underdog cheat sheet, or the optimizers for those as well, head on over to 9to5sports.com. Get access to those tools for $10 a month. And so this is what I'm looking at for the bet of the day here for this 2-game slate. 5-slip bet. Again, I don't like using the Goblin prop bets. PrizePicks, and with the way it's set up, they're kind of forcing us to do that to where it's more of a traditional sportsbook bet, which is good for everyone that's betting on those sites, where I'm a little bit more broad with the bets, but it's an interesting slate. It is. I think it's a better DFS slate than prop betting slate in general. And I don't necessarily love the fact that I'm not betting on that many like star players. Like, we're betting on Dari Gumbawale, who's a secondary player, probably going to play like maybe 10 snaps. Don't love that. Shepard, going to run maybe 15 routes. That's all little things that I don't necessarily love. But again, 2-game slate, not much there on the board. Can't control that. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. Appreciate you being here. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Good luck with all your bets for Monday Night Football. If you guys are interested in DraftKings NFL DFS, I'm going to have that video out as well in the morning. So check that out as well, guys. Thanks for watching. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.